Hi, my name is Sonny Choi, and I'm a student here at UNLV in the Bachelor of Fine Arts program. Art for me was always a way to learn more about myself and to gravitate towards things that I feel strongly about. I always drew as a child, but I would say a big breaking point in my creative life was in high school when I fell in love with photography. I took a couple of classes and I was never fully committed to them, but later I invested my own time into it as a hobby. I was really interested in capturing images that came from my own perspective, and I was really fascinated with being able to choose what I romanticize and give attention to. Photography taught me how to look at things differently, and I spent a lot of time looking at scenes of everyday life and finding ways to document that imagery artistically. I'd say my biggest takeaway and what led me to explore this further in my time at the university was appealing to these hidden beauties. Training myself to look at these scenes made me appreciate life in a different way. And it was almost therapeutic being able to escape and capture these moments. I felt like these were feelings that I wanted to share with others. Currently, my work is rooted in image making, and I've been using drawing, printmaking, painting, and some sculptural elements as my foundation to creating two-dimensional images. Throughout my whole life, I drew portraits, but later in school, I really wanted to start breaking away from that, and I decided to use objects as my focus. Not much different than the portraits I drew before. I was really interested in looking at the object on its own and putting that object in the spotlight. Some of these objects were chosen through my own personal connection to them, but also could be chosen to respond to current events or my own introspection. It was different than photography in that I wasn't necessarily in the moment and trying to capture things to eternalize. As I steered myself back into creating images by hand, it really allowed me to look more into my own consciousness rather than reacting to a moment. I felt that singling out the object and highlighting it as if it were its own portrait allowed for a more intimate experience with the subject matter. It really tied back to what I was interested in when I was documenting things with photography. To me, it was really about making images of something that was so banal and mundane to try and evoke thoughts of sentiment or nostalgia and to reflect upon that. I wanted people to look at these objects differently and also to allude to a side of material culture. As I made more of these kind of object or I guess still life images, I started to feel a bit stuck. I began to feel like all I did was make images of objects and I didn't want to be that guy. I also noticed that a lot of the power in my pieces really relied on the viewer's experience and how they chose to narrate the story behind these objects. I began to focus too much on how a viewer can plug that experience in, and I wanted to show more of my voice and to figure out what I want to talk about specifically. Also, my mentors really inspired me to use this time to try new things, and my focus changed from developing new concepts into experimenting with new materials to really switch up my process. And generally, I felt that what I really needed to do if I wanted to last as an artist is to just have fun. And these ways of developing through material was one of the things that kept me interested in making. And in the time of taking my mentor's advice, I found that I wasn't just interested in portraying the beauty of everyday life. Looking into it, a common theme that I was interested in talking about was the acceptance of the inevitable. And this idea came in many different forms. Some of my works talk about the concept of aging, and as we age, as time goes on, there are things that we have to let go of. There are people that come and go in our lives, experiences that we can no longer experience, and there's places that we've been to that have changed forever. As much as it happens, these are things that we have to accept, and I think that making these works have been a way for me to face that fact and to appreciate it as another beauty in life. Another big topic of acceptance is the struggle for success. I think being an aspiring artist is just a long journey of fighting for yourself. And the highs and lows are equally important, but sometimes, and just like how everyone else experiences, there are times where you just really struggle to see a way for things to work out. It actually feels impossible at times, but really, and I truly believe that there's always going to be an open door for us and opportunities to follow. I think the most inevitable experience of life is death. Every year, my family celebrates Chinese or Lao New Year, and in doing so, we all come together to honor our past loved ones. In the Chinese ceremony, we call it bison. We use red candles as a way to memorialize our ancestors. Also, in my family, we have shrines within our households to honor some of my grandparents. Making these pieces were another gateway to show my own identity as an Asian American. And I found that to be a small step in putting more of myself within my work. I think one of the most fun things in capturing these experiences are finding ways to portray them through iconography. The most fun thing about creating is developing a sense of style. Recently, I've been looking more into Edward Hopper's work, and I'm really intrigued by his use of light to pose these dramatic scenes. There's always a certain tension within his works, and I've been hoping to create a similar tension within my own. The most valuable thing in creating these works is, again, connecting with others, and hopefully to incite some sort of introspection or self reflection, and to show that we all experience the same things. I guess if just one person felt the same way, it makes life just a bit better. I want to take this time to acknowledge my mentors and professors who have helped me these past few years, and also to all of my peers and cohorts within the BFA. Thank you all for being part of my experience here at UNLV, and also thank you for listening to my talk. I hope to connect later in the future.